Step into the room. It smells like stale coffee. Fluorescent light hums with a low, aggressive frequency. And the muted panic of a 6 a.m. alarm is already vibrating through the floorboards before it even goes off. You lie there, staring at the ceiling, feeling the weight of a blanket that suddenly feels like lead. You look in the mirror. Same eyes, same skin, same heavy silence hanging in the air. The reflection isn't a person. It's a monument to old choices. It's a pre-installed operating system running a trial version of someone else's life, programmed to survive on just enough dopamine to keep from crashing completely. You touch your face, and it feels cold. Your mind starts ticking before your feet even hit the linoleum, running a phantom script that is played every morning since you were old enough to understand the word bills. Work hard, sweat, survive, repeat. It's an endless loop. You aren't building a future. You're just maintaining a prison. The air in the apartment is thin. You turn on the faucet, watching the water swirl down the drain, and the sound seems to amplify the emptiness of your bank account. It's not just about the numbers. It's about the silent panic that sits in your gut like a stone. That phantom script tells you that wanting more is dangerous. It whispers that staying small keeps you invisible. And in your world, invisibility has always meant survival. If they don't see you, they can't crush you. You are fighting a neurological defense mechanism that views any form of radical change as an immediate threat to your existence. But as you watch that water spin away into the dark, a cold, sharp blade of clarity cuts through the mental static. Your personality isn't real. It's just a collection of memorized reactions to old limitations. A defense grid you built when you were too young to know any better. You stop saying, "I can't afford that." You stop looking at the ground. Instead, you stare directly into your own eyes in the glass and ask a single, terrifying question. What is this old identity protecting me from? The answer is silence. And in that silence, the first layer of the old programming begins to peel back like wet wallpaper. You turn off the screen. You kill the music. You close every tab on your phone until there is nothing left but the black glass reflecting your tired face. No distractions. No cheap validation. Just you, a wooden chair, and a blank piece of paper sitting under the harsh glow of a single, bare bulb. Your hands sweat as you hold the pen. The ink bleeds into the fiber of the paper as you write down the exact truth. Net worth. 0. Daily habits. Running from discomfort. Excuses. Too many to count. The words look raw on the page. They look like a crime scene. Your ego screams, trying to pull you away from the table. It wants to blame the economy, your boss, the algorithm, the timing, or the upbringing that left you empty-handed. Admitting that you are the architect of the very cage you sit in feels like a physical crash. Your throat goes dry. But as you look down at the ink, the panic subsides and leaves behind something much colder. Something harder. Steel. The moment you realize that if you are the root cause of the damage, you are also the only one who can rewrite the code. You write down 5 words at the bottom of the page in dark, heavy strokes. I am the architect. The old victim identity, the one that needed pity and excuses to stay warm at night, dies right there on the white sheet. Weeks pass, and the pattern starts to change. You walk into your living space, and for the first time, you actually see it. You don't just look past the clutter, you feel the weight of it pressing against your forehead. The cheap, faded clothes sitting in a heap in the corner, the empty takeout boxers on the counter, the digital feed on your phone buzzing every 3 seconds with outrage, gossip, and the loud opinions of people who are just as trapped as you were. It all feels like visual static. It tastes like ash. This is the sensory cage of the old self. Your brain is addicted to comfort, craving the quick hit of a notification because real, uninterrupted silence forces you to sit with the void. So you purge it. You rip down the posters, you throw the junk into black trash bags, and you scrub the floors until the smell of bleach masks the scent of stagnation. You strip the environment down to the bone. You design a cold, silent space where there is nowhere to hide. And in the vacuum of that silence, stripped of the noise that kept you comfortably numb, you finally begin to hear the faint, steady pulse of who you are actually meant to become. Then, you step back out into the street. The city hasn't changed, but the way you move through it has. You walk past the same gray buildings, the same crowded subways, The same storefronts you've seen 1,000 times. But suddenly, you don't just see the traffic. You see the realistit. Your eyes don't stop at the window displays. They analyze the supply chains behind them. You lock onto things you used to filter out completely. The silent high-value connections happening right in front of you. The subtle exchange of leverage in a lobby. The patterns of money moving through the asphalt and the glass. Your brain's old filter, the one that spent years scanning the horizon for lack, obstacles, and reasons why things wouldn't work, is being overridden. It feels like stepping out of a dark tunnel directly into a blinding sun. It hurts your eyes. Your mind aches from the effort of searching for leverage where it used to only look for walls. But you keep your chin up. You tune your internal antenna to a higher frequency. You study the architecture of opportunity, refusing to let the old, blind eyes take over again. By midnight, while the rest of the world drifts into the easy, passive sleep of the tired, you are operating. You lie in the dark, but you aren't worrying about the tasks waiting for you tomorrow. You are running a new simulation in the back of your mind. You aren't just wishing for a different life. You are experiencing the specific physical sensations of the goal. You feel the exact weight of a thick steering wheel in your hands. You feel the heavy, smooth paper of a signed contract between your fingertips. You breathe in the cool, silent air of a high-rise room that belongs entirely to you. You hear the crisp silence of a life that's been cleared of noise. Your old identity fights back. It triggers waves of cold anxiety, trying to drag your internal thermostat back down to your old financial baseline. It screams at you are pretending that you are a fraud, that you are going to lose what little you have. But you don't break character. You hold the feeling of the reality you are installing. You stay in the skin of the architect until the physical room around you begins to feel like the illusion, and the mental blueprint feels like the absolute truth. You override the thermostat with pure repetition, and then comes the friction. It always comes when you least expect it, usually wrapped in the voices of people you love. The old crew calls. They're sitting at the same sticky table in the same dimly lit bar, talking about the same old stories, complaining about the same management, the Samaluk, the same small town. You sit among them, and their voices begin to sound like slow motion. You take a sip of your drink, and it tastes like a time loop. You realize, with a sudden, heavy pang in your chest, that you don't belong in this room anymore. The gravity of their comfort is trying to pull you back down into the dirt, where it's warm and familiar. The hardest part of rewriting your internal code isn't changing who you are. It's resisting the urge to shrink back down for the people who want you to remain exactly as you were. So you make a choice. You don't pick a fight. You don't make grand, arrogant speeches about your new vision. You simply set your glass down, pay your tab, and quietly step out the door. You let them talk. You accept the cold air of the street. You accept that isolation is the price of admission for the next version of yourself. You walk home in the dark, entirely alone. And for the first time, that loneliness feels like power. The next morning, you don't go back to the old tasks. You stand in your workspace, and instead of calculating how many hours you need to give away to survive, you look at the entire problem like a machine. You see where the gears are jammed. You stop asking how much time you have to invest, and you start asking what assets you need to build. You see exactly how to solve a problem that hundreds of others are ignoring. This is the hardest shift in the operating system. Killing the wage earner mindset. You've been trained since childhood to believe that sweat equals reward. But as you watch the world move, you realize the market is completely blind to your effort. It doesn't care about your tears or your exhaustion. It only cares about the scale of the problems you remove from its path. So you pivot to leverage. You'll stop saying, I will do this manually. You start thinking, how do I build a system that executes this at scale? You become a designer of systems, stepping away from the assembly line to stand over the blueprint. Months turn into a year, and the numbers on the screen begin to shift. The account balance has commas you've never seen before. But as you sit at your desk, looking at the black digits, you don't feel the old, frantic urge to celebrate. You don't feel the impulse to buy the high-end watch or the fast car to show the world that you finally made it. The old identity would have spent that money in an afternoon just to prove it was no longer broke. But you look at the balance, and you see nothing but fuel. Dry powder. Capital ready to be deployed into more systems, more leverage, more freedom. You've decoupled your net worth from yourself. You don't need a single physical object to validate your status because your identity is the primary asset. The expensive things are just toys. The capital is power. You leave the digits where they are, cool and untouched, waiting for your next strategic command. Now, you move through the world with a heavy, quiet stillness that people can feel before you even speak. Decisions that used to paralyze you for months take you 3 seconds. When a system breaks, when a partner backs out, or when a market drops, your heart rate doesn't even flicker. You don't react with the old, frantic survival panic. You look at the crisis through cold eyes, seeing it as nothing more than a chessboard that has just reset its pieces. The noise of the world bounces off you like rain on glass. But with this new stillness comes a more dangerous enemy. Complacency. The urgent pressure of survival is gone. Your bills are paid, your environment is secure, and you're comfortable. The old self-image whispers that it's time to stop pushing, to sit back and enjoy the view from the golden cage you've built. But you see the trap. You realize that your true purpose was never to reach a comfortable finish line. It was to master the art of creation itself. You keep building not because you need more paper, but because creation is your true nature. The architect doesn't put down the pen just because the house is standing. You return to the blueprint with a clean slate, ready to design something bigger. Finally, you stand on the high balcony of a building you own, looking down at the city streets far below. The yellow headlights flicker in the dark like data packets moving through a processor. The cool evening air hits your face, and a profound, permanent silence settles into your bones. You look down at your hands, and you realize the ultimate, reality-shifting truth. The digits in your account, the real estate, the systems you built, they were never the true prize. They were just the byproduct. The real wealth was the absolute transformation of the person looking out over the ledge. You had to destroy every single line of code that kept you small just to survive the process. You look back at the room behind you. It's clean, precise, and quiet. There is no trace left of the old, broke operating system. The fear is gone. The static is gone. You are completely free. Not because of what you own, but because you possess total sovereignty over your time, your mind, and your identity. Money was only ever the ink. Your mind was always the pen. And as you turn your back to the city to walk back inside, you realize you didn't just change your financial reality. You coded a completely new universe.